Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another set of Genshin Impact reactions. Today we have two from Yoshiki in the comments of the last video, and this is Life is Inexhaustible and Raven Beneath the Tender Moon. Those are both interesting titles, you know, like they offer just a little glimpse in, so I don't really know where these are going to go because of that ambiguity to them, but I guess I'll have to listen to find out. So without further ado, let's go! Okay, the drone of a bagpipe starting it out. Always a bold move, but one I personally love. Okay. Digging the vibe. Ooh. Interesting there. Throwing in some dissonance in the solo. Okay. This sounds familiar, this little bit. I know it's from Luna 3, so it's probably a theme I've heard before. A little motif action going on. Definitely not exactly like anything I've heard, but definitely within a family. You gotta always catch me vibing with the flute solos, you know? Also, can we talk about how hard it is to play a violin and a flute? Like, getting two people to sync up like that? Whew. And those felt like real performances. So... that was everything I could have hoped it would be. Once it started out with the drone of a bagpipe, and it's just like, man, there's like one of two directions that a song can go when it starts with bagpipes, and that's personally my favorite one. Okay, so I think I'm gonna take this time to explain to you a little bit how a bagpipe works. For those who don't know, there is a drone that comes out of them, as I'm sure you've put together either from me mentioning it or just them existing and seeing one. There are those tubes on the top. There's the ones that like the guy blows into, there's the three that sit on the top, those are the drone tubes, and then there's the one at the bottom that's a chanter, and it basically is the one that you use to create notes. It's the higher pitch one that creates those top end frequencies that kind of create the melody when you're playing a bagpipe. So the thing with this is that there are three notes inherently in that drone. Each tube handles basically one frequency through a reed built into it that vibrates at a different frequency from the one next to it, usually within a triad. So we have that set there, and that's an A, and that's kind of where we sit for this song, albeit the key is actually an A minor, but I'll get to why that's important. But the drone sits on this A. But also it's worth mentioning that just because the bagpipes have the three different reeds on the top does not mean that each one is inherently a different note, so much as it is vibrating in a way that creates that feeling of a different note. So we would be getting the single A, but because of how those vibrate, it creates this broader sound that sounds more like a triad because of the three that we have there, and these notes are kind of just grinding up against each other. Like, mostly you would just hear these two kind of fighting, and the A wouldn't even be in here. That kind of exists because all three of them are happening at the same time in our ears. Just a little bit of sound science. It's not necessarily that you're hearing 3 individual notes, you're hearing just one, but because of how that grinds up against the air that leads into your ear, which sounds like 3, and most often, due to how they're tuned and built, sounds like a consistent, solid note, and A is just one of the most default ways to do that. It depends on the size of the bladder and all that stuff, because the air is circulating in there and getting spat out. So now you know how bagpipes work. Congratulations, take that to your grave, you'll probably never use it anywhere. But it does result in this interesting factor of the song being in A minor, and that not really working with A. Not necessarily. Just because they're close together doesn't mean they work together. If I add all 4 of those, you can hear that crunch in the center. These 2 don't like each other. So why does this matter? It's because most of the song, the solo stuff, is happening with that A minor in mind. We get A minor, we get F, we get G, and we also get E minor. That's kind of the chords that we get for the movement of this song. Not necessarily in that order, but those are there. So we get these chords, and for the melody, we get little things like this. And that's using, again, these chords that are really close and not necessarily within the family of A. And we also do go a little bit higher in there with some of those solos, obviously. One of them kind of bringing a little bit more of a Chinese flair to it, and just looping back from that. So there's movement to this song, and there's that same essence that we've heard from other Luna songs, specifically mostly stuff in Not Cry does this, where it's kind of that hodgepodge effect of having multiple cultures and different musical approaches, like that one being a little bit more in the Asian side of things, and the first one being a lot more of like Northern Europe. So there's a lot of flex that they have in this song, and a lot of it is because of having that amount of notes. All the white keys are basically utilized there, and that's not something that A works with. So again, though, it works because you're just sitting on the one note technically, but with how bagpipes work, it's separating it to the full A and not an A minor. It's just really cool to think of it that way, but also just this song is a blast. It's fun. It's so dancey, you know, like it's something that just makes you want to move, and perfect for a party or a festival, much like what I assume is happening here based on the title of the video saying it's a night festival. So that gives me that much information that I'm able to draw from. And yeah, this totally fits. I love this genre blend that they have in Not Cry, and it's nice to hear it back every once in a while. I know that I've been doing Not Cry stuff, but they've been kind of moving more towards like the historical end of that story, so I haven't heard as much of how the people have created their own music, and that's evolved over time. We're now getting stuff that sounds a lot more what it would be traditionally way back when, you know? So there's a different quality there. This Not Cry area has so much flex in what they're doing musically, and it's always really cool to hear, but also moments like this where it just makes me go, oh yeah, these are the people making these songs. It's not the area making this music. And that just is really cool to me, that the world building being told through the music is that dense. But I should probably stop yapping about this one and get to Raven Beneath the Tender Moon, so I guess let's do that, shall we? Okay. Very different energy. Ooh. Ooh. Oh. That's different. It's almost got like a Spanish Isle kind of flair to it. It's like bumping up against bossa. But like not at all that, you know? We're kind of back at this unique identity of this area's music. I'm loving the guitar in this one. It's just flowing so beautifully. Oh, we're not resolving. We're just leaving it on that. Okay. Again, this is doing a lot for me. I really love getting back to this essence of what the people are experiencing and not just the areas being the music. This is definitely more of like an area atmospheric sort of song, but it's still very much reflecting the characters that are living there now and not the stuff from the past. Okay, this one gets beautiful in how complex it is, but there's also a simplicity to the chords picked that is just... it's hard to explain. So I'm just gonna show you, basically, is kind of what this one's gonna be. C minor, G minor, A flat, B flat, E flat. There's a lot of flats going on in this song, and this song is just full of that relationship. There's also a lot of sevenths, but those don't really show up until we move the song ahead to the second set of chords in the second half. We get this transition that happens in there, by the way, that is a C sus4 that goes down into a C, and that's kind of the best way to use a sus4 is to resolve into itself on the full chord, and it's just one of my personal favorite things, and I do love that because it just kind of builds up. Instead of going to the C minor there, it brings it up to this, but before that, a little bit of tension to release into the normal C. And then we have, with the follow-up of that, this like F minor, C minor, A flat, D flat, E flat, and it goes back down to B flat pretty often, and again back up to the C when it needs to, or the C minor, depending on what you really need for this song. And again, that's complicated for a song, but the beauty in this simplicity of it is purely because of the guitar being arpeggiated. Everything is just kind of floating around with these extra notes above it. Like I mentioned, the C minor, it has a seventh on there. Just like that right there, that's what the guitar is doing. Going up on that one, there's also... and it's just more of this, you know? These builds that are happening underneath the rest of the music, and that guitar is doing a lot of heavy lifting for how pretty this song is and why it sounds so deceptively simple, because arpeggiating some chords out isn't exactly a new thing or super complicated, but what it does do is add some texture to the underside of the song and make it feel a little bit more fragile. Like this one, the C minor might be a little bit loose, but when you start going from like... now we have this giant emotional lift in the song, and you have to break that apart somehow to make it feel a little bit more tender and a little bit more like something you would be hearing in this location, for example, assuming that this picture is roughly where this song would be playing. I don't know where Piramida Town is. I haven't really spent that much time in Odd Cry to avoid most of that stuff triggering if I get too close to it, but what this does do is give me an idea of what to expect from that town. Just like this is the night theme for that town. It's soft, there's this fragility to it, and it's peaceful, but at the same time there's a complexity behind that. It's like hiding its complexity in how simple it is and how simple life may be in the town. There's probably a secret under there somewhere, probably the reason you have to show up. Whatever that may be is kind of hard to tell, but it could also just be the theme of a very soft-spoken village with a few people in it that really doesn't get much attention, because why would it need to be, right? It's this unassuming sort of track, but that is usually played in more of a narrative sense as the, hey, don't look over here, nothing going on here, just like no man behind the curtain, you know, just that sort of energy that comes from a song like this that I can't pick out if it is just an unassuming little village or if there's like a major plot point attached to this place, but I'm leaning towards the second one. But as short as it is beautiful, and I can definitely hear how this one loops and how natural it sounds and why it kind of lands on that lack of a resolution at the end, because it would, one, need to loop back around in order to keep playing, but also because it's leaving you hanging. And that's my other clue of there might be something more to this town, because it feels like there's just something that's not being addressed, you know, something that isn't being resolved in this town. And whether or not that has any actual weight to bear on the story in the area is up to whatever the story may be. Like I said, I haven't been been there, so I don't know. But this song does an amazing job at just giving me the little clues I need just from hearing this. And subconsciously, that's something that you'll be feeling too, even if you don't know what's going on, or even if you didn't realize that that would be a thing. Me explaining it to you now might make it obvious why this is the case, but subconsciously, you would be processing these chords and this sort of thing, whether or not you know. That's the point of subconscious response to anything. So you could have been hearing this the first time, walking through the area going, oh, this is very nice, but why do I not feel super safe? Like, why is there something just kind of scratching at the back of my brain? Why can I not decipher what that feeling of unease is? That's kind of what this song does. Again, whether or not you're paying attention, completely irrelevant. It's these little tricks that composers love to sprinkle into their music in order to make it feel that much more appropriate to the location and make it feel all the better as a piece of music. But I think I'm done yapping about both of these, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want me to get to something else, by all means, drop in the comments below and I will do my best as always to get to those. But if you don't want to do any of that, maybe just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!